heat all day with no water. It's like waiting for a friend, watching everybody else meet theirs on that corner.
So, what is going on with you and King Solomon? Hadari asked me. I shrugged as I continued to wash down my tables. I didn't know how to answer that. Being in this truth, I can't really tell my Koti I was seeing a brew that thought he was a Greek. Yet again, I couldn't tell her I wasn't, especially since he was now leaning against his truck angrily talking on his phone. It was clear he was waiting on somebody. And since everybody witnessed our conversation earlier, because everybody was always watching him, it was assumed he was waiting on me. What do you mean you don't know? He watches you like you his. She wiped down her ketchup bottles and refilled her sugars. Koti, honestly, I don't know. I mirrored the things she was doing on her tables. Do you like him? No. No? Really? Because I don't think I'm buying that. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to like him. I'm not in his league. You know what I mean? She stopped cleaning her tables and turned to look at me. What do you mean, not in his league? What does that mean? I mean, I'm just a poor girl from the hood, you know? I'm not polished or royalty or anything like that. What had Jessica said earlier to me, black nobility? I wasn't nothing but a little plaything for him. But even though I was poor and a nobody, I have a heart, and that I needed to protect because I couldn't take much more. Not this soon after losing my iman. Listen to me, Koti. It's his honor to be with you. You are the rarity. You are so beautiful and genuine. Any man will be blessed by Yah to have you. I shook my head at her and went back to cleaning my tables. That's why I loved her. She would say anything to spare my feelings. You don't believe me? No, I don't, but thank you for being a good sister to me. Forget that, girl. I'm serious. If you wasn't all that, then tell me why the finest man on this campus standing outside this restaurant where he's been for the last hour waiting for you, and it looked like he'd been in court all day. What kind of man do that, if not for a beautiful woman? Look, we don't know who he waiting for. I walked away then. I didn't need to hear what she was saying. She is my sister, and she'll say anything to make me feel better. But I didn't need her blowing my head up right now. I am not royalty, and I didn't want to be. I like being simple. I liked my simple life, and I wasn't trying to trade it in for a more complex one. As soon as Yah showed me the way he wanted me to go, I was out of here. I am the complete opposite of black nobility. I am not ambitious. I don't have to have the best. I don't have to be first. I'm perfectly fine being in the back. I like being the shadow. In fact, I'm extremely uncomfortable with the amount of attention Solomon was drawing to me. Somehow, I had to make him stop. Everybody know that the king can't really be that interested in a little peasant girl like me, except to have a little fun. And I wasn't interested. So he just had to move on to the next plaything. Simple as that. Can you give me a ride? I asked Daria as we clocked out. What about him? She pointed at Solomon, who was now leaning against his car watching me closely. Dang it. He's not here for me. Okay. You don't have to snap my head off. I didn't do it. I didn't mean to hiss at her. My emotions was in a form of chaos that I didn't understand. I'm sorry, Koti. I hugged her, and I exhaled in relief when she hugged me back. I don't know what is happening to me, I whispered in her ear. She drew back and looked at me. Koti, is this your first time being in love? I looked down in my shoe and nodded. Yah have mercy. This child's first time is with the king. She shook her head and chuckled. Girl, fasten your seatbelt. You getting ready to go on a ride. No, I'm not either. I followed her out of the restaurant because I'm ending this right now. She looked at me with the oddest smirk on her face. Okay, shall I wait for you in the car, she said. Yes, please. The knowing look she had on her face made me uncomfortable. I stared at her back as she walked toward the car. Come on, Stormy. Turn around and handle your business. Just turn around and tell them, move on. Easy. I turned towards him, and goodness, there he was, leaning his fine body against the truck. The intense look in his eyes was too much for me, so I just stared at his shoulder as I slowly approached him. I dug in my backpack and took out the phone. Here. What's that? He asked, looking down at my outstretched hand. His deep voice caused me to feel nervous and intimidated. It's your phone. That ain't my phone. My phone's in my pocket. You know what I mean. I don't need this. You got yourself another phone? No. Then you need it. But I don't want it. I don't care. He crossed his arms across his massive chest. Wow, he was really starting to get on my nerves. I didn't have time for this. I had class in the morning, my coachee was waiting on me, and my feet hurt really bad. Fine, I'll keep it, but don't expect me to talk to you on it. I shoved the thing back in my bag. Why? What did I do to make you not want to talk to me? I wrapped my arms around myself. I didn't want him to know how much he had hurt me. You didn't do nothing but be you, and I'm just trying to be me. The problem is me and you, we don't go well together. He moved then, quickly. Before I knew what was happening, I was up in his arms and he was climbing into that big monster truck. Put me down! What are you doing? I squeaked as he all but tossed me over to the passenger seat. But before I could even get myself together, he had started up the engine and had the thing in gear. He pulled up next to Hadaria's little Corolla. She got out of her car as he rolled his window down. Hello, how are you? My name is Solomon. His voice was calm and deep, as if he wasn't committing a crime. Hadaria leaned against her car with a smirk on her face. I know who you are, King Solomon. He chuckled. Well, I guess I'm the one at the disadvantage because I haven't had the honor of meeting you. Oh my goodness. He was charming Hadaria. She was blushing like crazy. I'm out of here. I grabbed a hold of the handle, but before I can open it, the doors locked mechanically. I looked over at him and he smiled at me like the devil. Hadaria, I yelled. Help me, I'm being kidnapped. Still, she smirked. Hadaria, is that your name? He asked. She nodded. Pleased to meet you. You and Stormy close? Yeah, that's my coachee. She leaned her head on her palm and spoke casually, as if my heart was not getting ready to explode out of my chest with fear and anger. Hadaria! Yes, Storm? Can you help me, please? What you want me to do? She laughed, taking my situation so lightly. She had no idea what kind of trouble I was in. Hadaria, he turned that killer smile on her. That wasn't fair. There wasn't a woman in the world that could stand up to that. Yeah, King. I'm going to give Stormy a lift home, okay? Gotcha. Night-night, Stormy. My mouth fell open as my sister that I thought, if not loved me yet, at the very least liked me a lot, got in her Corolla and pulled out of the parking spot. Close your mouth. Your friend know I'm not going to hurt you. He chuckled again and, tired, screaming, sped out the parking lot. I sat back and put my seatbelt on. Dear Yah, help your servant. I didn't know what to do. I just told him I didn't want to be with him, and he had responded by throwing me in his truck. Where are we going? My place, he said. This was not good. I'm not going to your place. Sure you are. You can't make me. Sure I can. Then he turned and hit me with that smile, and I promise my body got hot all over. I sat back in my seat confused at my body's response. I didn't want to go with him, yet it didn't seem like my body felt the same way. "You hungry?" he asked. I shook my head. "Did you eat?" Again, I shook my head no. "Well, I'll order takeout when we get home." I didn't want to go to his frat house with his frat brothers. I had been on my feet all day and I'm tired. I just wanted to go back to my dorm, take a hot shower, and crawl between my sheets. Why won't he listen to me? I looked over at him as he drove. So powerful his profile was. Everything about him screamed power. Why did he want me? "Solomon?" "Yeah, baby. I'm tired and I really want to go home." He looked over at me and smiled again. "Trust Daddy. I'm going to take care of you." Daddy? Did he just say trust Daddy? Okay, that's too much. And since I had no idea what to say to that, I just leaned my head back against the seat and looked out the window. How had I gotten here? Last month, I was in a small rundown house on the west side of Chicago, grieving the loss of my Ema and fearing my tomorrows. And now I was riding a monster truck with a king. How had this happened? We pulled up at Solomon's place, and for the second time in what seemed like minutes, I was rendered speechless. I was expecting to pull up in front of that frat house I had first met him at. Instead, we pulled up at a parking garage to a really nice building downtown. It sat on the riverfront with other impressive buildings. "Evening, King," the attendant said as he lifted the gate for us. "Evening, T. You coming to watch the game Tuesday?" "You already know I'm gonna be there. 7, right?" "Yep." They clapped hands, and then Solomon drove through the gate. We parked at a spot that read "The Kings" on the wall. "Wow, you have your own parking spot." I looked around, and there was many more cars, but there was no more plaques. It's my building. I should have my own parking spot. Once again, my mouth fell open. "You got your own building?" Oh man, this was getting worse and worse. My family owns several buildings in the area. He said that like it was everyday news for a girl like me. He hopped down out of his truck and came around to my side. Now I really wanted to go back to my dorm. Before, I thought he was out of my league. Now I knew for sure without a doubt that there was no way me and him should ever be talking to each other. This place was as grand as many buildings I had seen downtown Chicago. "You getting out, Storm?" he asked, standing on the side of me. Sure enough, I sat in my seat, clutching my backpack, staring straight ahead. "I don't think so." "Why not?" "You're rich." He laughed. I mean, really laughed. His Adam's apple went up and down in his thick neck. I rolled my eyes at him. I didn't know what he thought was so funny. There was nothing funny about this situation. "Man, right when I think I can finally understand you, you go and shake me right up," he said, getting himself together. "You know, most girls like me because I'm rich." "That's just it." I turned towards him so that he could see the seriousness in my eyes. "I want you to go and be with one of them. I don't want this." I waved my hand in front of me at his building. All the laughter left his face, and that little muscle in his chiseled jaw started ticking. "We have a problem then, Stormy, because I want you." He braced both hands on my foot rail, which brought him really close. His face was almost touching my lap. I swallowed. I didn't know what to say to that. Why was he always saying things that took my breath? "Even kings can't always get what they want," I whispered, lost in his intense gaze. "That is true, Malakati. But in this case, I will get what I want. I'm going to make sure of it." Then he effortlessly lifted me out of the truck. When he put me on my feet, he reached down and grabbed my hand and led me into a world of luxury that I had never been in before. "I have to go home soon," I said as he led me across the floor, so shiny I could see my reflection in it. "I have class in the morning." "Good evening, King," a white doorman said as he opened the door. "Evening, Roger." He obviously wasn't as close with Roger as he was with T. We walked to a pair of golden elevators. Two women that looked like French models joined us at the elevator. They pushed the up button, but Solomon stuck what looked like a key card in a slot, and then he pushed a separate up button. I felt so short standing with these three tall people, and to make matters worse, the women stared right over my head and was making eyes at Solomon. I looked at him to see if he noticed, but he was looking down at his phone where he was using one hand to text something. I tried to pull my hand out of his so that he could use both hands if he wanted, but he only tightened his grip on my hand and continued texting. He didn't even notice these two women. They looked like they had stepped right off a TV screen watching him. Goodness, I was out of my element here. The elevator that the women stood in front of opened and they stepped in. They giggled and waved at Solomon as the door closed, but he never looked up from his phone. I was going to ask him why we didn't get on the elevator, but before I could, the elevator we stood in front of opened. We stepped in, and I was amazed to see that this elevator only stopped at 4 floors: the basement, the lobby, the penthouse, and the roof. And sure enough, we didn't stop till we reached the 50th floor penthouse. Wow, I couldn't hold on to my astonishment. The doors opened to his place. We stepped out into his foyer. He still held my hand and led me to a living room that had a huge bay window that looked out over the river. Amazing. This place was something you see in a magazine. Everything looked so expensive and in place. The only thing out of order in the immaculate room was 2 game controllers that lay on the floor in front of a huge TV. He led me down a long hallway. We passed his office, a gym, a couple of bedrooms, till finally we made it to 2 oak double doors. He opened them and led me into a bedroom for a king. This room alone was bigger than me and Ima's whole house. It too had a huge bay window that looked out over the river and the rest of the city. He let my hand go and I slowly walked to the window to look out. The view was extraordinary. The river sat dark and calm, but the city behind it was alive with its nightlife. I could see the lights from the casinos and the clubs. Women and men walked down the street in their best clothes, laughing and chatting with each other. It wasn't quite as big as downtown Chicago, but it definitely put me in the mind of it. "Come here, Makati." He took my hand and led me into the bathroom. That would have made my Ima cry. She told me she always wanted one of those big clawfoot tubs. Well, he had one, and get this, it was gold. The whole bathroom seemed to be trimmed in gold. There was a double sink, but instead of the sink bowl sitting down in the sink, the 2 golden bowls sat on top. The mirror was huge and it circled the whole bathroom. A double-headed shower that looked big enough to hold 10 people sat against the opposite wall. Through the smoky glass, I could see the brown stones of its walls. I was so caught up in looking around the bathroom, I didn't notice he stood in front of a tub that was now filling with steaming bubbles. My mouth watered, and my aching body really began to scream. "What's this?" I asked. "It's a bath for you. While you soak, I'll order food for us," he said, loosening his tie. Really? I felt like a child in an amusement park. The tub was every woman's dream, not just my Ima's. "Really? I got a pair of my shorts and a t-shirt for you to put on when you finish." He pointed to the clothes that he had set on the sink. "Towels are in the closet there. I've never had a female here, so you're going to have to do with my body wash." "You've never had a female in your bathroom?" He looked at me with those intense eyes of his. Then he licked his lips. Dang it. "Nah, baby, what I'm saying is, outside my mother and my sister, I've never brought a female to my house." My mouth must have fell open again because he chuckled. "When you finish, I'll be in the living room." Quietly, he shut the door behind him.